Picture a Stoic philosopher who didn't just sit and ponder life's mysteries. He studied the stars, mapped the oceans, and traveled across cultures, seeking knowledge from every corner of the world. This was Posidonius, a mind unlike any other in ancient philosophy. He believed that true wisdom wasn't just about controlling our emotions or staying calm under pressure. For Posidonius, wisdom meant understanding life as a whole, seeing the connections between ourselves, nature, and the cosmos. Unlike other Stoics, Posidonius saw philosophy and science as inseparable. To him, observing nature, understanding the human mind, and showing compassion for others weren't separate pursuits. They were all threads in the same tapestry. He saw the world as a living, breathing organism where every part affects the whole. In this video, we're exploring 10 essential life lessons from Posidonius, lessons that go beyond traditional Stoic thinking. These aren't just about accepting life's hardships or staying calm under stress. They're about finding purpose and harmony in a complex world. Posidonius believed that a balanced life comes from not only mastering our minds, but also understanding our place in the universe and nurturing a deep connection with others. So if you've ever wondered if Stoicism could offer more than self-control or resilience, if it could help you find meaning and connection in every part of life, these lessons are for you. Let's dive into the teachings of Posidonius, the holistic Stoic who looked to the stars, the earth, and the human soul for answers. To understand Posidonius, we need to step back and look at the world he lived in. Born around 135 BCE, Posidonius grew up during a time when philosophy was seen as a tool not just for personal growth, but for understanding the mysteries of life and the universe. He was a student of Panaetius, another prominent Stoic, and under Panaetius's guidance, he learned that wisdom meant more than sitting still in quiet contemplation. It meant exploring every aspect of life. Unlike other Stoics, Posidonius had an insatiable curiosity about the world around him. He traveled extensively, journeying from his home in Greece to places as far as Spain, Egypt, and Rome. Everywhere he went, he observed and learned, studying everything from the behavior of people to the patterns of the stars. His travels fueled his belief that wisdom couldn't come from theory alone. It had to be grounded in experience and observation. But Posidonius didn't stop at exploring. He made significant contributions to multiple fields, becoming a celebrated philosopher, scientist, and teacher. His writings covered everything from ethics and physics to geography and meteorology. Posidonius studied ocean tides, measured the Earth's circumference, and even attempted to map the known world. This rare blend of philosophical insight and scientific curiosity made him a true pioneer, someone who saw the mind and body, the human soul, and the physical universe as deeply interconnected. His approach to Stoicism was unique. Where other Stoics emphasized mastering the mind, Posidonius believed that true mastery meant understanding how all things, our thoughts, our bodies, and the natural world work together. He believed that by observing the natural world and recognizing our place within it, we could find harmony not only within ourselves, but with the world around us. This holistic view is what makes Posidonius's teachings so profound, and why, even today, they offer a richer perspective on what it means to live wisely. Let's now delve into Posidonius's 10 essential life lessons. These insights go beyond traditional Stoic guidance, offering a profound look at how wisdom and interconnectedness can shape a balanced life. Let's explore the teachings of a philosopher who sought not just resilience, but true harmony with the world. Number 1. Emotions as judgments. Our first lesson from Posidonius is simple but profound. Emotions are not random forces. They're judgments shaped by our beliefs and interpretations. He taught that when we feel emotions like anger or fear, it's not the situation itself, but our interpretation of it that gives rise to those feelings. By recognizing this, we gain an incredible power, the ability to master our emotions through our perspective. But to truly understand this, let's step back in time and hear an ancient story, one that brings this lesson to life, the tale of Hercules and his choice. Long ago, Hercules stood at a crossroads, both literally and figuratively. He was young, strong, and untested, a hero not yet shaped by the trials that would make him legendary. As he stood there, two figures appeared before him, each offering him a different path. The first was a beautiful woman dressed in silks and jewels. She offered Hercules a life of ease, pleasure, and comfort, saying, "Follow me, and you'll never know hardship. All the world's luxuries will be yours, and you'll live in endless enjoyment, free from struggle." This woman was Vice. Then, from the shadows, a second figure emerged. A tall, strong woman with a determined gaze and worn hands. She was Virtue. Her voice was steady as she spoke to Hercules. "My path is not easy. It will demand effort and sacrifice. You will face danger, hardship, and moments of despair. But along this road you'll find strength, wisdom, and honor. Choose my way, and you will be tested. But you will also become the hero you are meant to be." Hercules stood in silence, considering his options. Finally, he turned toward Virtue, choosing the path of struggle over the comfort of vice. He chose not just a path, but a perspective. He judged that hardship was worth enduring for the sake of becoming something greater. In our own lives, we can apply this wisdom to moments of stress and uncertainty. When we face challenges, our immediate emotions, fear, anxiety, frustration, often stem from seeing the situation as a threat or setback. But if we stop and question that judgment, we can find a different perspective. Perhaps this challenge is a chance to grow, to prove ourselves, or to learn something invaluable. When we see emotions as judgments, they become guides, showing us where we can reframe and grow rather than sources of endless distress. Posidonius's lesson teaches us that by examining and reframing our judgments, we gain control over our emotional lives. Just as Hercules did, we can choose the path that leads us not to comfort, but to true strength and inner peace. Number 2, the unity of the cosmos. Lesson 2 brings us to one of Posidonius's most profound ideas, that the universe is a single interconnected organism, a vast and intricate system where everything and everyone has a place. He saw each of us as threads in a grand tapestry, with our lives woven into a larger design we may not always see. To capture this idea, let's imagine an ancient story about a small, humble raindrop. Once, high above the earth, a raindrop was born in the clouds. It was tiny, light, and alone, drifting in the vast sky. As it fell toward the earth, it began to worry, wondering, what purpose do I serve? I'm so small, so unimportant. How could I possibly matter in this vast world? But as it fell, it joined with other raindrops, merging into a stream that rushed down the mountainside. Together, they flowed with force, carving valleys and nourishing plants. And as they moved, the raindrop felt itself becoming part of something larger, no longer alone or insignificant. The stream joined a river, and the river finally flowed into the ocean, a boundless body of water embracing all the rivers of the world. Now, as part of the ocean, the raindrop understood. It was no longer just a drop, but part of a vast, living system. By becoming part of the ocean, it was connected to tides that guided ships, storms that brought rain to thirsty lands, and waves that lapped against distant shores. In becoming part of the whole, the raindrop found its place, understanding that its tiny existence contributed to the entire balance of life on Earth. Posidonius's vision of the cosmos teaches us to see our lives in this way. When we feel overwhelmed by our own problems or weighed down by isolation, we can remember that we're all part of something larger. Each of us contributes to the world's balance, like raindrops in the ocean. Our actions and choices ripple outward, impacting others in ways we may never see, but they matter. So, when we feel alone or insignificant, Posidonius encourages us to shift our perspective. Our lives are not isolated. We're part of a grand, interconnected universe. And in understanding this unity, we gain peace, knowing that we are connected, that we belong, and that each of us has a role in the harmony of the cosmos. Number 3, mind and body connection. Our third lesson from Posidonius is one that sounds very modern. The mind and body are not separate. They are deeply, profoundly connected. Long before modern science, Posidonius understood that our mental clarity and emotional well-being are linked to our physical health. A healthy body, he taught, supports a clear mind, just as a disciplined mind can help guide the body. To bring this idea to life, let's go back to an ancient story, a story of a runner who learned this truth through experience. In a small village, a young man trained to be the fastest runner in his town. He was strong, but impatient, pushing himself beyond his limits to be faster every day. The villagers admired his dedication, but an older, wiser runner saw the strain on the young man's face. He approached him one morning and said, "If you want to be strong, you must learn to listen to your body. Pace yourself wisely, and you'll run not only faster but longer." The young runner dismissed this advice at first, determined to achieve victory through sheer force. But one day, exhausted and aching, he collapsed on the path before even reaching halfway. He lay there, frustrated, realizing his strength had been spent not by the race, but by his own impatience. Finally, he understood the wisdom of the older runner's words. From that day forward, he listened to his body, resting when needed, nourishing himself well, and letting his mind find calm in the rhythm of his footsteps. In time, he ran faster and farther than ever before, not by forcing his body, but by aligning his mind and body in harmony. This story echoes Posidonius's insight into the unity of mind and body. Today, we know this connection well. Physical exercise improves mental clarity, sleep restores focus, and stress can impact our health. When we care for our bodies, we also care for our minds. So, Posidonius reminds us that tending to physical well-being is not separate from Stoic discipline. It's a part of it. When we strengthen and nourish our bodies, we prepare our minds to meet life's challenges with resilience. The ancient runner's wisdom teaches us that true strength doesn't come from pushing ourselves to the breaking point. It comes from respecting the balance within us, honoring the bond between our minds and our bodies. Number 4, Nature as a moral guide. Our fourth lesson from Posidonius invites us to look to nature as our guide. He believed that by observing the natural world, we could discover wisdom on how to live. Lessons about patience, integrity, and balance. Nature teaches us not through force, but through quiet example. To understand this idea, let's listen to the story of the farmer and the river. Once there was a farmer whose fields were split by a wild river. Every year the river's waters would rise and flood his land, washing away seeds and spoiling his crops. Frustrated and angry, the farmer decided he would tame the river. He built walls to block its flow, thinking he could contain it. But when the rains came, the river rose higher than ever, breaking through the walls and flooding his fields more fiercely, leaving the farmer in despair. One day, as he sat beside the river, an old villager approached him and asked, "Why do you fight the river? It flows where it must. It always has and always will." The farmer protested, "But this river destroys my crops and washes away my work. I must control it, or I'll lose everything." The old villager chuckled and said, "Instead of trying to force the river, work with it. Let it teach you." With that, the farmer began to observe the river, noticing its rhythms, its times of flood and drought. The following year, he planted his crops in new patterns, adapting to the river's natural flow. Instead of walls, he built channels to guide the water, allowing it to nourish the fields without destroying them. By working with the river instead of fighting it, the farmer's harvests grew abundant. He learned that true strength comes not from controlling nature, but from understanding and aligning with it. Through this story, Posidonius teaches us that nature has its own wisdom. The river in our lives may be our challenges or circumstances, forces we can't control. But like the farmer, if we observe and adapt, we find that nature's flow leads to balance. Nature doesn't act out of anger or impatience. It simply moves according to its rhythms, reminding us that we too can find peace by moving with life rather than fighting against it. In our everyday struggles, this lesson can help us handle challenges with more patience and acceptance. Just as the farmer learned to channel the river instead of resisting it, we can approach life's obstacles with humility, trusting that by aligning ourselves with nature's wisdom, we can find solutions and growth without forcing or controlling. Nature's rhythm becomes a guide for our own, teaching us resilience, integrity, and the strength that comes from balance. Number 5. The power of self-mastery. Lesson 5 from Posidonius explores a powerful concept: self-mastery. Posidonius taught that true strength doesn't come from controlling others or accumulating power. It comes from mastering ourselves. To him, the ability to control our desires and align our actions with reason was the ultimate path to freedom. To illustrate this, let's dive into an ancient story, the tale of Odysseus and the Sirens. Odysseus, the clever hero of Greek mythology, was on a long journey home when he learned he would soon encounter the Sirens, creatures whose voices were so enchanting they could lure sailors to their doom. Odysseus knew that to hear the Sirens' song meant to lose control, to become a slave to desire, and abandon his journey. So he came up with a plan. He ordered his crew to fill their ears with beeswax so they couldn't hear the sirens, and then he had himself tied to the mast of his ship. As they sailed past, the sirens sang their tempting song, and Odysseus felt an overwhelming desire to turn the ship toward them. But no matter how much he struggled, he couldn't break free. Bound to the mast, he endured the song without succumbing to its pull. Eventually, they passed the danger, and Odysseus was safe, having resisted the temptation by anchoring himself firmly in his purpose. This story captures Posidonius's idea that self-mastery is not about denying ourselves pleasures for the sake of denial, but about keeping control over our impulses so that we remain aligned with our goals and values. Like Odysseus, we can set boundaries, establishing anchors that keep us steady when temptations arise. In our lives, this might mean setting limits on distractions, practicing moderation, or learning to pause before acting on a strong impulse. Self-discipline, in Posidonius's view, isn't about restricting ourselves. It's about freeing ourselves from being ruled by fleeting desires. It's about developing the strength to choose our actions based on reason rather than impulse. So, as Posidonius would advise, let's see self-mastery as a path to liberation, a means of freeing ourselves from the control of outside influences. By practicing self-control, we secure our ability to stay on course, focused on what truly matters, no matter how strong the pull of life's sirens may be. Lesson 6. The virtue of sympathy. Our sixth lesson from Posidonius reveals a side of Stoicism that's often misunderstood, the virtue of sympathy, or what Posidonius called cosmic compassion. Unlike the stereotype of Stoics as detached or indifferent, Posidonius believed that recognizing our connection to others was essential. To him, all beings are part of a greater cosmic order, and feeling compassion is not a weakness, but a profound acknowledgement of our shared existence. To bring this idea to life, let's hear the story of the compassionate king. Once, there was a wise king who ruled a vast kingdom. This king was known not just for his fairness, but for his unusual approach to ruling. Rather than see his subjects as mere followers, he treated each one as part of his own family. When a farmer lost his crops to a storm, the king provided seeds and tools so he could start again. When a child was orphaned, the king ensured that she was cared for as if she were his own. His advisors often warned him that his kindness would be taken advantage of, that he should rule with a stronger hand. But the king only smiled and said, "My people are my family, and their well-being is my own." Years passed, and neighboring kingdoms fell into conflict, rulers clashing with their subjects. But in this kingdom, peace reigned. The people loved their king, and in return, they looked out for each other. The king's compassion had woven a bond among them, making them a united, harmonious community. By treating each person as family, he created a kingdom built on loyalty, trust, and mutual care. A kingdom stronger than any ruled by fear or force. Through this parable, Posidonius teaches us that compassion is not only moral, but wise. By feeling sympathy for others, by acknowledging our shared humanity, we align ourselves with the natural order of the universe. Just as the compassionate king found that treating his subjects with kindness brought strength to his kingdom, we too can find inner peace and strength through acts of kindness. In our everyday lives, showing compassion strengthens our bonds and reinforces our own sense of purpose. When we offer support or kindness, we contribute to a larger cosmic unity, the very unity Posidonius described. We begin to see others as connected to us, as partners on the same journey, rather than as separate or opposing. So, as Posidonius encouraged, let's practice compassion as an extension of our rationality, recognizing that in caring for others, we ultimately strengthen and care for ourselves. In the interconnected web of life, kindness is not just a virtue. It is a natural, powerful force that brings harmony to both the world around us and within us. Number 7, empirical observation. Our seventh lesson from Posidonius takes a step beyond traditional philosophy and into the realm of empirical observation. Posidonius believed that true wisdom comes not only from contemplating ideas, but from observing the world around us. To him, observation was a way of connecting with the universe, of understanding life's intricate order by paying close attention to its details. Imagine for a moment a scientist studying the stars. Night after night, this scientist sets up her telescope, looking out at the vast, mysterious sky. She studies each constellation, watches the planets shift, and observes patterns in the stars. She doesn't draw conclusions hastily. She observes patiently, letting each new night add to her understanding. Over time, she begins to notice the order within the chaos, the subtle rhythms of the universe. Through careful observation, she discovers a connection to something far greater than herself, glimpsing the divine order that Posidonius so admired. In Posidonius's view, this careful, patient observation is a powerful form of wisdom. Just as the scientist learns from the stars, we can learn about our own lives by taking time to observe rather than rush to judgment. Life offers insights when we are willing to watch, listen, and absorb. Observation isn't passive. It's an active search for understanding, a way of aligning ourselves with the natural world. In our everyday lives, Posidonius's lesson on empirical observation encourages us to practice this same patience. Instead of reacting immediately to situations, we can take a step back, observing before we respond. This practice fosters awareness and allows us to understand situations and people more deeply, often leading to wiser and more balanced decisions. So, as Posidonius would advise, let's embrace the art of observation as a pathway to wisdom. By seeing the world as it is, before adding our own interpretations, we cultivate a clearer mind, a more patient spirit, and a deeper connection to the world around us. In every moment, we have the opportunity to observe and learn, finding meaning in the everyday patterns that surround us. Number 8. Mindful acceptance of mortality. Our 8th lesson from Posidonius touches on one of life's greatest realities: mortality. To some, the idea of death may seem dark or uncomfortable, but Posidonius saw it differently. He taught that awareness of our own mortality isn't a reason for fear. It's a reason to live fully. Embracing this awareness brings clarity and depth, helping us appreciate each moment as a precious gift. To capture this idea, let's look to the story of the cherry blossom tree. In a small village, there was an ancient cherry blossom tree that bloomed each spring. For just a short while, its branches would be covered with delicate pink flowers, creating a breathtaking scene that drew villagers from all around. Children would laugh and dance beneath the branches, and elders would sit quietly, admiring the blossoms. But within days, the petals would begin to fall, scattering in the wind, leaving the tree bare once again. Year after year, the villagers returned to see the cherry blossoms, knowing their beauty was fleeting. The brief bloom of the tree reminded them of life itself, beautiful, precious, and temporary. It wasn't the long-lasting presence of the blossoms that made them special. It was their brief, radiant existence. Each year, the villagers were reminded to cherish their own lives in the same way, seeing the beauty in each passing day. Through this story, Posidonius teaches us that our awareness of mortality can enrich, rather than diminish, our experience of life. Like the cherry blossoms, our lives may be short, but that very impermanence gives our moments meaning. By remembering that life is finite, we're inspired to make each day count, to be present, and to appreciate the people and experiences around us. In Stoicism, this principle is often captured in the practice of memento mori, or remember that you must die. Far from morbid, this practice is meant to awaken us to the present, to urge us to live with intention and purpose. When we keep our mortality in mind, our worries tend to fade, our focus sharpens, and we begin to cherish even the simplest moments. So, as Posidonius might encourage, let's embrace the idea that life is temporary and precious. By accepting our mortality, we remind ourselves to live more fully, finding beauty in each passing moment, just like the villagers who returned each spring to witness the cherry blossoms in bloom. Number 9. The global citizen. Our 9th lesson from Posidonius brings us a timeless perspective on identity and belonging. Posidonius believed that we shouldn't limit ourselves to narrow identities or borders. Instead, he encouraged us to see ourselves as citizens of the world. This global perspective allows us to transcend divisions, fostering a life of balance, understanding, and compassion. To illustrate this idea, let's turn to the story of Diogenes the Cynic. Diogenes was a philosopher known for his sharp wit and simple lifestyle. One day, someone asked him where he was from, expecting him to name his city or country. But Diogenes looked the person in the eye and boldly replied, "I am a citizen of the world." In a time when people fiercely identified with their city-states, this statement was radical. Diogenes saw beyond the boundaries that separated people by birthplace or nationality. To him, those divisions were meaningless. He believed that all human beings shared a common bond that transcended borders. Diogenes lived this idea each day, treating all people with the same openness and respect, whether they were foreigners or fellow citizens. His words and actions embodied a life of unity, one that didn't recognize the barriers of nationality, race, or social class. For Diogenes, life was not about what separated us, but about what connected us. Posidonius embraced this same idea of the global citizen. By seeing ourselves as part of a shared humanity, we open ourselves to new perspectives. We understand others better, and we approach the world with a spirit of empathy. This view is not about losing one's identity, but about expanding it to include the diversity of life around us. In seeing ourselves as citizens of the world, we can dissolve the limitations of prejudice and embrace a compassionate outlook. In today's globalized world, this lesson is more relevant than ever. By adopting a mindset of openness, we can connect with others across cultures, learning from each other's unique backgrounds. Posidonius's wisdom encourages us to approach differences with curiosity rather than judgment, allowing us to find balance and common ground. So, as Posidonius would have advised, let's look beyond borders and labels. Let's choose to be citizens of the world, seeking to understand and connect, recognizing that our shared humanity is far greater than what divides us. Number 10. Inner peace through understanding. Our final lesson from Posidonius focuses on a goal many of us seek: inner peace. But Posidonius's concept of peace isn't about escaping the challenges of life. Instead, it's about developing a deep understanding of ourselves and the world around us, which allows us to face life's storms with calm and clarity. True peace, according to Posidonius, is rooted in this knowledge. It's not an escape, but a resilience that comes from within. To illustrate this idea, let's turn to the story of the philosopher in the storm. One evening, a philosopher was traveling on a small ship when a sudden and violent storm hit. Waves crashed against the boat, lightning split the sky, and thunder roared, sending the crew and passengers into a panic. People scrambled, gripped by fear, convinced they were about to meet their end. Yet, in the middle of the chaos, the philosopher remained calm. He sat quietly, watching the waves with a composed expression, his heart steady despite the raging storm. Seeing him so calm, one of the terrified passengers cried out, "Aren't you afraid? How can you sit there so peacefully when our lives are at risk?" The philosopher looked at the passenger and replied, "I am not afraid, because I understand that storms are a part of life. Just as calm days exist, so do turbulent ones. This storm is no different. It too will pass. My peace comes from knowing that I cannot control the storm, only my response to it." In that moment, the people around him began to settle. They found comfort in his calmness and started to feel their own fear ease. The philosopher's peace came not from the absence of danger, but from his deep understanding of life's nature, of its rhythms, its inevitable highs and lows. Posidonius's lesson here is profound. True inner peace doesn't come from a world without storms. It comes from within, from our ability to understand and accept life's unpredictable nature. By grounding ourselves in knowledge and awareness, we build a resilience that allows us to face challenges with calm and courage. In our own lives, we can apply this wisdom by embracing practices of self-reflection and journaling. Taking time to understand our own thoughts, emotions, and experiences allows us to build that inner strength to face our own storms with the calm of the philosopher. Each time we reflect, we become more aware, more connected to ourselves and the world. And through that understanding, we find the foundation of inner peace. So let's carry this final lesson from Posidonius with us, knowing that true peace isn't about avoiding the storms of life. It's about finding calm within them through understanding and acceptance. As we reflect on these 10 essential life lessons from Posidonius, we see how his teachings go beyond simple philosophy. They offer a holistic blueprint for living with balance, wisdom, and compassion. Each lesson, whether it's learning to reframe our emotions, recognizing our shared humanity, or finding inner peace through understanding, invites us to see ourselves as part of a greater, harmonious whole. Posidonius viewed life as an interconnected web where each part influences the others, and by aligning ourselves with these timeless truths, we're not just cultivating personal growth, we're contributing to the strength and balance of the world itself. Let these teachings guide you as you walk through life, facing each day with a sense of purpose, calm, and interconnectedness. If you found Posidonius's wisdom inspiring, our journey doesn't stop here. There's a powerful Stoic practice waiting for you in our next video, the unseen power behind remaining silent. This lesson dives into the art of silence, a strategy that has strengthened minds for centuries and remains a tool for clarity and control in our own lives. So be sure to check it out next, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it with others who might benefit from Posidonius's teachings. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more Stoic insights to help you build a life of purpose and peace. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.